We are live here from PB&J's Lunchbox, 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York, the home of some fantastic food. We have it sitting right here for you this morning. Nice homemade breakfast sandwich, bacon, egg, and cheese. And you see the coffee cup, because I'm very proud to say, and you can see it here on your screen as well, that Cafe Kubal is proudly being served here. So proud to work with Cafe Kubal as one of our partners in the community and PB&J's Lunchbox. Now they work with each other, so great seeing the team together. And speaking of team, we have Dan Conley here on my right side, and we have Rob Drummond on my left, Syracuse Orange Football alum, and Syracuse Football Then and Now is what we're talking about today. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
I guess I should pick this up now. I'm doing well as well, so good to see you guys this morning.
Rob, you woke up at 3 a.m. this morning. You beat us all. Pat and I pulled in at the same time this morning to PB&J's Lunchbox. Dan, when did you wake up today?
5 o'clock.
5
Yeah,
o'clock.
I'm
Okay.
early
So
riser.
7:30. Pat, when did you wake up?
Oh, it's about 7:30.
Okay. So the owner, Pat, or we got up at 7:30. You got up at 5?
Yeah.
And then 3.
Three.
Nice.
We know
Nice.
we're lazy sometimes.
Yeah. What do we think about the first snowfall, gentlemen? The actual snow on the car today.
Ooh, I'm not a big proponent of cold weather. You know, I can deal with the snow. So when it was snowing out, you know, that really doesn't bother me as much. I played in games before that snowed all the time too. But it's just the cold that gets to me. I mean, when I was younger, I could deal with it more. But as I get older now, and Dan will attest to this, my body just hurts when it gets cold out. I mean, my knee joints hurt, my elbow joints hurt, my wrists, my fingers, my toes.
You know when it's coming.
Oh, yeah, I know.
That's what, and my grandmother used to always say, her knee, she goes, I know it's going to rain today. She would just know.
See, and I've only probably had like 3 or 4 surgeries, so I mean, I'm not used to the superhuman over here who's had more surgeries than I think than the age of my oldest son.
It's
so
just the barometric
yes,
pressure.
yes, that's 100%.
Conley, we're going to do a GoFundMe for you. I think we
you know
deserve.
what?
God.
I'll take that. I'm having my 19th surgery January 5th. I'm having my right shoulder replaced.
Your 19th surgery.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of it if you want me to pull it up on.
Oh,
I
gosh.
created like a fake X-ray with all my surgeries on it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's so.
Wow.
So when did you have your first surgery?
At Syracuse, I think it was September 17th or 19th, 1991. I tore my ACL, MCL, PCL, lateral medial meniscus at Maryland.
Oh my Lord!
Yeah, so that was the first one. And then
I don't even think I
many
can
more to
repeat
follow. I
that.
think 12 total on my right knee, including a replacement. And
12 total surgeries just on your right knee.
yeah,
My Lord.
yep.
So should we start the show off with how student athletes should be
Should not be
compensated?
playing-
There should
should
be
not play football.
there should be
Wow.
workers' comp claims that should go through because it happens with every other sport.
I think.
Should we
so.
talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something. First of all, I got to give a shout out to my employer, One Group, who does a lot of the workers' comp for Central New York and outside of the state, for letting me take a few minutes to join you here. Yeah, we were just talking about before we got on the air.
Yeah.
I've had like $20,000. My wife and I've had like $20,000 of out-of-pocket expenses from surgeries. I've had 18 orthopedic surgeries, 3 ACL reconstructions. Those were in school. The last one was out of school when I was playing in the Hula Bowl. Both rotator cuffs reattached. I'm having my right shoulder replaced. I had a staph infection in my right knee. Multiple, orthopedic surgeries for torn cartilage, etc. So, yeah, it's become expensive. We even looked into putting a. I talked with some people a couple years ago from Lloyd's of London about putting in a disability policy that student athletes could take with them from college for a period of like 10 years, which would pay their out-of-pocket expense because, it's. There's a handful of triggers. You get paid by the university, at least the scholarship athletes do. You get paid, you're required to go to school, maintain a certain GPA, and then you're required to be a football player. So there's really 2 to 3 triggers for employment there. So why a torn ACL that requires, maintenance after college is not taken care of by the universities just beyond, it's the fact that we don't have a union right now for these young people in college
That's sad to watch.
That's it.
It is.
And
really is.
I've often said, if I was in a position where money wasn't an issue, I'd go out and spearhead and get a union in place and require. I mean, that's a bonus for the student athletes in recruiting, is to be able to have somebody represent you to make sure they're looking out for your best interest. So it's a shame that they don't have anything in place right now. I know that Northwestern pursued this several years ago, but then you kind of graduate out and you forget about it because it's no longer pertaining to you. So.
And I think you bring up a great point, because we look at, name, image, and likeness now, and the fact that student athletes can make money off of, their name, image, and likeness, and that they can be essentially their own brands. And that even more so screams the employment side of it, is that, how can you not consider this to be employment, right? I mean, you're working for the university. I mean, you are the reason why they're making a ton of money. Take athletics out of colleges and universities, a lot of these places don't survive. During the pandemic, there was a lot of schools that had to fold, that had to close, because they get their money from student athletes and they weren't able to bring anything in. So D3 programs and whatnot folded. There's so much riding on these gentlemen right here and everybody that comes before you and after you, that without the men and women that play sports, how does a university make money? Take the dome out, take the 30,000 fans out, take the everybody buying a $10 ticket and everybody buying beer and everybody buying a drink. I figured it out that if nobody ever bought a single piece of food or a drink or merchandise, the school in and of itself makes like $2 billion before anybody even touches anything, just on enrollment.
Right.
And then you add in all the money that the athletes bring in, that they can't turn around and say to you, Conley, hey, we can give you at least a percentage towards your surgery.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's the higher ups or what, but if you look at a school like Alabama, and I'm not comparing Syracuse athletically to Alabama these days, but look at where they were academically before Nick Saban went to Alabama. What do they have? 20,000 people apply to Alabama every year. Now all of a sudden, Alabama's on national TV every Saturday. And, I mean, it looks like a pretty good time, Drum. I don't know about you, but I've been to a couple away games where tailgating is just off the charts, down to Penn State.
It's a different world.
I just remember rolling into some of these stadiums in Oklahoma, and they've got miles of traffic of pregame festivities.
Florida State has it inside of the ACC.
You know?
Florida State at a 3 p.m. game, they tailgate at 8, 9 a.m., all the way to the game, to like the second before the game. Then they go in and they do the Seminole with the spear and all that,
Right.
which is awesome.
Right.
And then they tailgate after the game until 9 or 10 p.m. And then they go to a party.
Yeah.
So literally on a Saturday, they're tailgating
All day.
for about 15 hours.
Yeah. Well, kind of finishing that, if you look at where Alabama's at now academically, they're ranked, I think, within the top 35 right now.
They're way stronger now. than they were in the
Because
past.
a lot of kids want to go to school, so now they get to pick from the cream of the crop. So that's how athletics is that, and then in boasting male enrollment on campuses has always been an issue since I was a college football coach. We at each one of the schools I had coached at, we had more females than we had males on campus. So at the smaller schools, it's actually used as a tool for administration. So, but yeah, it's being able to have a great product out there and filling stadiums. Like you and I were talking, we were all talking about, before the tickets are even sold, merchandise and drinks and beers and all that stuff. It's a moneymaker. For most. I once heard the top 30% are the only schools that make money, but I don't know what the actual number is, but there's a lot of teams making money out there these days.
Well, and you just look at it like this. I mean, what is Jimbo Fisher's buyout? Like $80 million? I mean, I think Nick Saban's was around 40. Jimbo's is more than that. When you put a buyout that high, yeah, your hope is your coach stays. But Alabama can also pay that buyout. There's like one booster down in Alabama going, I'll pay it myself. You know what I mean? Like, when they want to coach out, like Willie Taggart at FSU, they're like, how much is it? $14 million? They get like 3 people together and they pay it.
Right.
So, money is not an issue. I think the thing is the rich want to get richer, and you don't want to take care of what you need to take care of. Rob, we've talked about it before with the NFL, and you were a part of the lawsuit, right, with concussions and whatnot.
Yes. Still
And-
part of it.
Right, and the fact that the NFL has tried to prove that that these injuries are not caused by them, or that concussions may or may not affect you later on down the road. I mean, millions and millions, billions of dollars, and they can't give a little bit to a retirement fund. God forbid you have to have surgery.
I mean, and I always say this. How many owners do you know of, past or present, that have committed suicide from CTE or head trauma or things of that nature from football?
Yeah,
Not a one.
yeah.
How many players can we sit here and name off that it have been proven through documentation by
Yeah.
doctors having CTE that have committed suicide?
I think the one that hit me the most, and you can speak to this, but I mean, I grew up collecting sports cards forever. Junior Seau,
Yeah.
never in a
Yeah.
billion years did I think that I would ever hear of a story that he couldn't control his brain. I mean, those are awful.
For me, I can get closer than that, and Dan will attest to this because he played with him. Chris Gedney,
Yeah.
who hit me, like a Mike Tyson punch. Because I had talked to Chris probably 2 weeks prior to that, and we as players, we don't do enough. We don't talk to each other enough. But it's like we could see that something was wrong. But you always think that me as someone who's actually in the field with these guys, a gladiator with these guys, going to war and battle with these guys in the game of football, you always see them as tough. You don't see the weakness in a football player, and when he shows you that weakness, you don't know how to respond to it. So it's hard, but you expect them to come out of it. But it's to the point now where it's such a debilitating disease, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And for the NFL to scoff at it, or I won't say turn their back, because the only reason they're not turning their backs now is because they were forced to face this head on, with the lawsuit and things of that nature, and players just random players, young players, mid-30s, 40s, killing themselves. It's like, come on, guys, wake up. Doctors have shown you that it's a mental health disease going on that's caused from football, and you're doing nothing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just. I sit there sometimes and I think to myself, they don't give a damn about these players as long as they're making them money. They could care less about them. Once a game is done, once the glory is gone, once the crowd noise is not there anymore, they'll pass you off as if you're nothing.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's having a bunch of employees who do a really good. It's like having a bunch of employees in a factory, and you got everybody on an assembly line, and you got putting together products, doing a great job. And then you all move on to another factory. They just bring in new factory workers, and they just put you back on the assembly line, and they just keep working. And they don't care about you after, because you're not making them money in that moment. And I think that, what I saw with the alumni situation here in Central New York is there's a detachment between the university and the players that
Really?
you and I have talked about for over a decade. But that
No. Wow, I would have never guessed that.
But that detachment, it really makes me feel like once you're done putting your pads on, they could care less about you.
What you call detachment, I call no love at all.
Yeah. Well, you and I have talked about it from the day we met.
It's like, why would I go someplace where I don't feel accepted?
Right.
I don't feel accepted up there. I don't feel loved up there. I don't feel liked up there. I put my blood, sweat, and tears, as Dan did also, for 4 years in Syracuse, to bust my behind, to make a name for myself, to make a name for my university, to make a name for my town. And we all, as players, did. Getting up early mornings, going to class, coming back from class, going to practice, going to workouts, after workouts, watching more film. Then after film, going to study table, then going to sleep, getting some rest, and waking up and doing it every single day again. We put in the work. We deserve to be honored there. It's like Kyle Federley said one time, everybody who's ever donned that orange helmet is a star to me, is a legend to me. Yeah. Because they did the small things that it take to be successful, and obtain those bigger things. And be unappreciated and it's not just me. Many of players said, to feel unappreciated like that, we'll keep our distance. It's just like with anything else. If you don't show me love, I'm not going to show you love. Why would I? Well, I shouldn't love something more than you should when you're there.
Well, the thing is I've had a lot of alumni. I mean, over the years, over a decade. I mean,
it's
you guys
no
know
secret.
this. Yeah, right. And they've come on the show of all different decades. I've spoken with you both. I've spoken with players from, doesn't matter. It could be the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. I'm constantly hearing the same narrative of, I would just like to be invited. I would just like a phone call. I would like to go speak with the team. I would like to be able to just stand on the sideline for 5 minutes. And I think the thing that kills me is that the best sellers of your product are the people that used it. And, it's like you don't sell toothpaste better than you can sell toothpaste to people that actually use the toothpaste. So, you guys were using the toothpaste and your teeth were pearly white. So why not talk about, you and have, I just feel like it's a no-brainer. And I spoke with a coach and, I'll leave him unnamed around the country. And he said to me, he goes, some of us coaches, and these are head coaches in Division I AFBS, they said, we've been talking about Syracuse. And we wanted to know kind of what's going on. I said, well, they don't recruit locally. They don't let their assistant coaches talk to anybody. And they don't talk to their alumni. And they don't promote their alumni. And he said to me, that sounds like a recipe for perfect failure. And I said, yeah, it is. It's the absolute recipe for failure because you're not talking to your community. You're not putting your coaches in your community. The players in your community that grew up only wearing your stuff hate you now. And I talk to these players when they go to Rutgers and they go to Indiana and they go to UConn and they go to BC and they go to Colorado State and they go to Buffalo. They want Syracuse on the schedule and they want to kill them. I've had players look me in the eye and say, I can't wait to come here and just whip on them because they feel spurned by the school that they loved and they don't want to come back here and build a family. They don't want to build a business here because now they're mad. So Syracuse not recruiting them is hurting the economy. It's hurting the community. It's a generational thing. And I'm not here to put Syracuse on the stake, but I'm here to say about any school that does this, why would you turn away? And then they say, well, they're not talented enough to play here. Servassier Dennis, Latavius Murray, Dorsey Levens, Stevie Scott, John Phillips, Noah Jordan Williams, on and on and on and on and on. Servassier was not even given a scholarship offer from Syracuse. He was the linebacker of the week to start last season, and he's only gotten better.
Before I got here, and he's only a sophomore.
And guess who's coming to the Dome on November 27th? Servassier Dennis.
A higher-ranked team and a much better program at the moment.
And I can promise you he's going to knock somebody out.
1,000%.
I could jump in on this one because I called my buddy Dan O'Day up at Dartmouth at the end of the season. I said, you guys have got to offer this kid. I go, well, what position? I go, at any position you want. I go, whether he's a skilled kid, whether he wants to play wide receiver, defensive back, free safety, quarterback, outside backer, whatever it is, I told him, I said, he's one of the best athletes I've seen in a long time. So, it's unfortunate. It's back in the day, recruiting's completely changed, and I was a part of that for 4 years, a year under Greg Robinson and 3 under Doug, and I tell a lot of people back in the day when you had George DeLeones and Paul Pascalones, they actually got in a car and drove to towns, and then they'd go in and talk to a Dennis Shazinski and say, hey, who are the good players around here? And they didn't have recruiting services like they have today. So today, a school like Southern Cal could call the high school coach from St. Aquinas over in Rochester and say, hey, I heard you got a 4-star kid. We want to take a peek at his film. It's on YouTube. And all of a sudden get a call back 10 minutes later and he's got an offer from USC. So that aspect of recruiting has changed. But I still think, you've got to start with your home base. And this transcends to all athletics. We were just talking about lacrosse. And, whether it's, regardless of what sport it is, being able to, evaluate local talent, it's not challenging. And coaches should be, in my opinion, if you're not out recruiting on a Thursday night or a Friday night before a game, you should be. You should be watching all these kids. So.
Well, and they said, and this is the thing that frustrated me last year when they had 2 buys. Syracuse had 2 buys. They said,
that was 2 wins.
yeah, they were like, hey, guess what? And they put out a thing on Twitter. They said, we're coming to see you. Get ready, Central and Upstate New York. We're sending our coaches out to you. And I said, no, they're not, because I know the coaches. I know Maine Endwell's Matt Gallagher. I know, Tom Bellino at Union Endicott. I know, obviously, Casey Brown at CVA and CNS with Dave Klein and Joe Corley at West Genesee, Dave Mancuso at Liverpool, Carl Sanfilippo at Beeville. On and on and on and on. These coaches would tell me, because they would have been like, Dan, you wouldn't believe it. Dino showed up for the first time in 5 years. They're not going. Carl met with him in the beginning, and he told me about that. He said, Dino told me he wants to recruit locally and run the ball. Neither one of those things happened. Running the ball happened by mistake because there was no other choice. But I want everybody to think about something, and I want you to really wrap your head around this because I hit somebody with this yesterday. Sean Tucker was the fourth-string running back last season. Abdul Adams was 1. Jarvion was 2. Jawar Jordan Jr., who's transferred out like Jarvion, he was 3. Sean Tucker was 4. He wasn't even on the depth chart. So let me just be real with you about this. This isn't a coaching, oh my God, look at this guy. This was a, I have to play this guy. So if Abdul didn't opt out, Jarvion didn't opt out, and Jawar Jordan didn't transfer, there's a chance we would have never seen Sean Tucker play one down. Yeah. So this fantastic 1,000-yard rusher, first one in almost a decade at Syracuse, would have never played if not for a COVID season that forced Dino to play him. So what does that tell you? That even on the roster, they didn't even know what they had in Sean Tucker from Owings, Maryland.
That's recruiting. It's all about recruiting. You should know how talented a kid is when he comes in, comes into your school, because you should know this that as a college recruiter recruiting high school kids. Will they get better? Yes, they will. Will they get bigger, stronger, faster? Of course they will. But the development and how explosive a kid is, I mean, like, if I'd have been able to see, I could have told you Eric Dungey was going to be as super as he was by watching his high school tapes.
Oh, I believe Tim Lester.
And it wasn't his senior year. I watched his junior year's tapes, and I told my friends, this kid's going to be special. Yeah. He's got the heart, the grit, the determination, the desire. He has every intangible it takes to be not just a quarterback, but a winner. And sure enough, it showed. So you can see this in kids as they recruit. And Dungey is from Lake Oswego,
he's from he's from Lake Oswego, Oregon. Yeah, there's an Oswego in Oregon, yes.
But the thing, and I'll be honest, now that he's gone, it puzzled me. It's like, how did the University of Oregon let this kid get away? How did he get all the way over to Syracuse? And
Oregon State gave him some
love.
All
these good schools in between them, Oregon State, he could have went to UCLA, USC, Stanford, all these schools.
He almost went to Wyoming. If Syracuse didn't recruit him, he would have been there with Josh Allen, who's now at Buffalo.
Really?
Yeah. He was going to fight Josh Allen to be the starter there at Wyoming.
Well, good luck with that one.
Hey, listen, Jacksonville got a dub over that one.
That guy's a heck of a quarterback.
Yeah. Josh Allen's good, and he can run. I'm just happy that Jacksonville beat him because Jacksonville hasn't beaten really anybody but themselves. So I'm going to take
one win.
Listen, I got to take what I can get.
God, you're as bad as the Cowboys.
I have to take what I can get, Rob. Why can't you just be like, congratulations on a good defensive game?
You're happy about 1 and 2 wins a year?
No, I'm happy to get one win so I don't have to see an 0 in whatever it's going to be this year. 0-17, whatever the Lions are going to be.
You're still not good.
I know we're not. I didn't say we were. I said I'm happy that they won a game. It's been 420 days, Rob. Congratulations, Dan. Congratulations, Dan.
At least you're not a Cowboys fan. I got to hear.
They're good this year.
We them boys
but
every
the Cowboys
single week.
Cowboys are good this year.
We them boys. Be humble. What?
They're good this year, Rob. The Cowboys are good.
What have they done since 1996?
Nothing. But this year they're good. The NFC is really difficult.
They're good every year. And what do? Come November, come December, what do?
This is a better year than past years, though.
I've had $1 for every time I heard that from Cowboys.
This is this is a better year.
Okay, they're a little better. Congratulations.
They're leading into last year in the division. They could have won the division being 4-12.
Let it equate to Super Bowls. These paper champions means absolutely nothing unless you're carrying that championship, like that Lombardi Trophy off that field, like the Eagles.
You still got to beat Tampa,
like the Eagles did in 2016. Here's the thing: the Giants have been to 2 Super Bowls. The Eagles have been to 2 Super Bowls. The Giants have won NFC championship games. The Eagles have won NFC championship games since the Cowboys won their last championship. The Cowboys haven't been to an NFC championship game. They've done nothing. But yet we keep hearing about how great the Cowboys are. Humble yourself. When you start winning and you start getting to that point where you can play in NFC championship games and Super Bowl, okay, you're good. They're not good. That's why people don't like them.
Do you check Rob's social media? When the Eagles beat because this is the thing. I was just going to call you out on one thing. When the Eagles beat the Cowboys, you put up some hate mail immediately.
I'm a former Eagle.
You put up Cowboys with tutus on and you say, "Oh, we them boys now."
Of course, I can't stand the Cowboys.
I know, but what you said one game.
But here's the thing. But you never heard me. Even when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was like, "Congrats, good for them. Great job."
Yeah, I called you that night. You were emotional. It was good.
But I don't go around pounding my chest. We America's team. You're self-proclaimed America's team. No one dubbed you America's team except yourselves. Who did? You guys did. We're America's team. We them boys.
What do you mean? What do you mean I did? I was 9 years old.
Here's the thing.
I did like the stripes.
Oh my, dude. Cowboys fans drive me crazy.
Who's America's team? The Patriots?
Patriots.
Ugh, no.
Why?
Stop that nonsense.
It's not the Cowboys.
That's not the Patriots. The Patriots, they're not good anymore.
They're better than the Cowboys. More Super Bowl wins.
Yeah. Well, historically, they're not better now.
That's all y'all talk about. Super Bowl wins, we didn't rings.
Right.
Bro, I swear they had some of them rings that y'all won back on the Titanic. That's how old they are.
Now listen, I know, but the Steelers can talk about that. Big Ben's washed up now. There's a lot of things we could talk about.
They've won one Super Bowls more recent than the Cowboys also.
I know. And Jacksonville's never won one. Do you hear me saying Jacksonville's a great team?
You like Janet Jackson? What have you done for me lately?
You hate the Cowboys so much.
I can't. It's not. It's, you know what? I like athletes. You know what I mean, and that's why.
You like Michael Jackson? Remember the time.
I was thinking Michael Jackson, basketball player from Georgetown.
But that's Cowboys would say, remember the time.
No, but I mean, as someone who is a personal trainer, you know, who enjoys training athleticism, watching athletes, watching them move, watching them do well in their sports, you know, I look at the Cowboys, and granted, I may not be someone who is really fond of the Cowboys, and that's putting it mildly. You know, but I like, you know, like CeeDee Lamb, you know, and Gallup, you know, and Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and you know,
yeah.
and
I covered Tony Pollard in Memphis.
That Micah Parsons as an athlete to watch is just
great,
absolutely phenomenal.
Micah Parsons, another guy in recruiting.
It's not so much the players and the team that I can't stand; it's their fans that drive me crazy. Oh,
but you think the city of brotherly hate is nicer?
The most.
They're not. Don't tell me Philadelphia is a nice city to play against. But you wear a Cowboys jersey in Philly, you might die that day.
But Philly fans don't go around.
I can wear a Jaguars jersey in Philly and they would hate me.
We the Eagles. We America team. It's like, oh, get over yourselves. You're not good. You haven't been good in a long time. Humble yourselves, Cowboys fans.
All I can say is...
Dan, you a Cowboys fan? You had to get mad.
Dan's like, not today. Not today, I'm not. Not on this broadcast.
I'm a Bills fan because of Hal Luther.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So I got
respect that.
family there, that's all.
Yeah.
But I don't. I actually take naps on Sundays.
I'm not. I mean, I watch the highlights more. I mean, we're probably so old and so used to watching so much film that a game's like watching film to us.
Yeah.
You know, you watch the game for excitement. We watch the game to break down what we see go wrong. You know, this or how they can get better. So we analyze the game.
I always want a camera angle like
the average fan.
Like, why can't they do this for me with everything they can do with technology? I want to like for Trevor Lawrence on Jacksonville right now. I want a camera angle to show me because I know the offensive line is busted and beat up and they can never stay healthy in Jacksonville, and we never have a front five that can stay together. I want to see what he sees down the field. I want a camera angle of, is every receiver locked up? Like, is he making a bad decision? Are they not giving him enough time? Are guys not running the correct routes? I want to see it more from a film point of view. I want to see that angle. What is Trevor seeing that I can't see? Because what do you always see on TV? You see the long view, you see Trevor, you see the offensive line, and then you don't see the ball until it goes. I want to see what's happening on the other side, on the back half of the field, because that's going to help me see, is he maturing? Is he growing? Is he learning? And that's one thing, because I don't watch football like a typical fan. I tell coaches all the time, I told Lester, I go, if you're there at 3 o'clock in the morning, you want to watch film, I'll watch it with you. Because I wanted to study. And I believed in Eric Dungy because Lester called me up. I know exactly where I was. I was in a Burger King parking lot on Route 31, and he said, you have to watch film on this kid that I'm watching.
Well, it's still on YouTube. Watch his junior year highlight tapes from Lake Oswego High School. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was like, Dan, you have to watch this kid. He told Schaefer every week, he was like, save me a spot. Save it. You got to save. He said, save a scholarship, because Schaefer wasn't going to take a quarterback. And he was like, you got to save a spot for this kid. And every single legal week, NCAA-wise, that he could recruit, he only went to Oregon. Lester would go to Oregon he would go there for a week, spend time with his dad, who rest in peace. His dad, Tim Dungy, yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, when Dungy, so this is what I said to everybody about Dungy. And Conley, I want to get your thoughts here because Rob used up a lot of his time on the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Small rant.
The thing is, though, it's the hypocrisy that if the Eagles beat the Cowboys that week, he would be putting up a ton of posts about one game.
Yeah.
You always say, "I'm sorry, we them boys," and then you put up something that's.
When the Eagles, I honestly don't.
Rob, I'm gonna go check your timeline.
Go ahead. I stay quiet for that reason. Because the Eagles beat the Cowboys, so I stay quiet. It's like, here, lead by example. So if I expect you to do it, I got to do it myself, correct?
Yeah.
Just said that, correct?
Yeah.
We talking about that, so I got to lead by example. So,
but you troll some Cowboy fans. You text your cousins.
Yeah, a lot of my
Yes, you
family
do.
are Cowboys.
You
and
do.
Giants, man. That's funny. A lot of my family.
You repost stuff on Facebook that other people listen. Just because you didn't post it, you repost it.
All right, let Dan answer your question about it.
Because you need to think about a response.
No.
So Dan, with Dungy, when he was playing his last year, before the last season started, I remember sitting in the studio, and I said to the fans, I'm going to ask you to do something that some of you are going to do, but not all of you are going to do. And that is to love and respect Eric Dungy this final season when he's wearing orange and blue, and you have him.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you, as time ticks away, you're going to miss him like crazy when he's gone.
Yeah, I was
So
one of
many
those people.
And some of those, and I tell you, people didn't listen, and they critique, Dungy, blah, blah, blah. He leaves. I'm getting messages from fans that entire season after 2019. Dan, we should have knew it. We had it before it was gone. He's on the Mount Rushmore of Syracuse quarterbacks. I'll miss him forever. Does he have eligibility back? He was critiqued, beaten down, and it's funny because my dad will tell you this. He goes, out of all the defensive linemen that hit him, you're the only. He said, my son's the only one that made him cry. Because after the Camping World Bowl, and I have this framed, I asked him the question about 4 years, losing, going through all that, people saying stuff, fans saying stuff, people hating on him, his injuries, and how he came. I said, how is this game not just this game, but it's the culmination of an entire career and an entire life of people not believing in you. And that's when he cried that day.
Right.
And I still, right now, the fan base is like, God, we miss Eric Dungy.
Yeah, I miss Dungy. I talked to one of the coaches. Our sons play modified football together, and I brought up earlier, about the two quarterback situations at Syracuse, and I said, was as clear to like everybody on the field that the kid from Mississippi State is Schrader was that much better than DeVito.
It was so clear.
And he goes, it was clear to most.
Yes.
So
Way more in command. That doesn't have to be those arms.
But yeah, I was one of those guys, and I was kind of, I saw a glimpse of DeVito against North Carolina, I think a couple years ago in the fourth quarter, and I just happened to be at a restaurant coming home from a Pop Warner game, and I saw him throw some great balls, and I go, this is like a real deal throwing quarterback, and I was really excited about it. And then, but at the end of the day, if you think about Syracuse football, we've been successful when we've had running quarterbacks, where you can run the option. I don't think we've had success as a true drop back quarterback team. When Greg Robinson came in and tried to put, he had 3 coordinators in 3 years, I think, so he had 3 different offenses. But I think that's a component that Syracuse needs. It adds one more blocker to the scheme. Now it's like, now you got to get both safeties involved in making tackles to be gap, sound. But yeah, I was kind of one of those guys who was kind of hoping DeVito was going to be better than Dungy was. But looking back now, Eric just was a heck of a football player.
Yeah, and the thing was, and this is something, and I'll never forget this because I always said it to you. I was like, you can't take the dog out of him. No, he's a dog, and there's dogs, and then there's dogs.
Yeah.
And I will never forget when Dino came in. I was at a press conference, and he said, and I laughed when he said this. He said, Eric Dungy, he may want to run, and I'm paraphrasing. He's like, he may want to run. He goes, but he's not going to run that much. He's going to have to get used to not running. And I laughed. The next year, a few games in, 3-4 games in, Dino's sitting there and he goes, well, you can't stop a man who wants to run. And I was like, of course. That's what he's good at.
Right.
He had to hurdle at least one person a season. Eric Dungy would play, and you know what? I liken it to Shamarko Thomas, who's also a good friend of mine. Shamarko would come at you. Now listen, Shamarko lost his mom, lost his dad, had to raise his siblings, and now he's helping his siblings and his kids, and he's trying to raise an entire family by himself. Shamarko Thomas, I'll never forget this play. He was going after a tight end. It might have been Pittsburgh at the Dome. He leapt out. I think it was maybe BC. He leapt out at this tight end, went Superman into this guy's chest, helmet bang to the chest, straight down on the ground, just like out. People are thinking, did he get a concussion? Is he alive? Any of this. And he popped back up. Every single play that he played, he wanted to kill you because you were in his way. And that's how Dungy played. There was one guy that they were kind of like messing with him after the play, and they were like doing stuff, and I think they were on the road and whatnot, and they kept messing with Dungy, and I remember watching the game. He went to the sidelines and bucked somebody and stood over him, and I was like, how many times do you see a quarterback hit somebody like a linebacker and then stand over your body like, try me again? Yeah. You know, you can't teach who Dungy was. And so Dino Baber's most successful time at Syracuse was not coaching. It was having a player on your team that you didn't need to coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the, it's, my son's a pretty good football player in high school. And, I've talked about him throughout the season. And I said, he plays tailback. So a lot of people ask me, can he play safety? I said, he's a football player. I go, he can play safety to outside linebacker to defense end. He just understands the game. Yeah. I go, if you're a really smart coach, you just line them up and let them go. Go coach the other kids, because when you talk about the teams from when Drum and I played up at Syracuse, the amount of development that happened on campus as a football player was huge. So they could take it. And I'll tell you, my son's got a better highlight video than I had coming out of high school. He's 6 foot, 190. I was 6'3", 217. So I had that height advantage. But I often think about it. I talked to Ogeron after they won the national championship, and he goes, "Hey, Danny, it's not that hard. When you coach down here, you don't have to coach as hard as you coach at Syracuse because we just got better players." And I go, "Yeah." I said, "My wife could coach like a Jadabian Clowney. It's developing the other kids around you that I think is needs to be understood at Syracuse. It really has to, and that's one of the biggest differences, in my opinion, between the NFL and college football is, you got, I think players in the NFL are truly looking to go to a place where they can get developed, where they can be an all-pro and actually get paid because of a coach. They're looking to be coached by the best coach in the league. So, that's one of the big reasons why I think, when Drum and I was playing that, they did have good coaches and they stayed put for a long time. So, people ask me all the time about Dino, and I said, well, if you keep making changes every 3 or 4 years, either for good or bad, either a guy's going to win and leave or he's going to lose and leave. It took Max 7 years before he had a winning season.
But think about the difference between Schaefer and Dino. Schaefer had a coaching tree of Tim Lester, Tim Doust, Chuck Bulla, Clark Lee, Fred Reed, Bobby Acosta, Jake Moreland, Joe Adam. All of these guys stayed with him. George McDonald left because he demoted him, but everybody else stayed with Schaefer. And they're all successful. Fred Reed's been at Eastern Michigan since he left. Chuck Bulla has only risen. Clark Lee is the head coach of Vandy right now. Right. And I believe he hired Justin Lustig from Syracuse out here. But think about it. The difference between Dino and Schaefer is that Schaefer had this great coaching tree that wouldn't leave him. And then when they all got fired here, they all dispersed. And DeAndre Smith, forgot about him too. And they're all successful. Right? Dino, his guys are running as soon as they can. Yeah. You look at what the coaches are doing. Sean Lewis over at Kent State, and he had brought Mackie McPherson over there for a little bit. Right. You look at Justin Lustig, special teams coordinator. There's nobody running special teams at Syracuse right now. Right. And you have to replace what you lose. You have to replace. Again, the assembly line. If there's not that person at the end to grab the box, then the box falls and it breaks. There's nobody there. So I think the difference between these two coaches is one of them, the coaches are leaving to go be successful. With Schaefer, the coaches would not leave him until they had no other choice.
I mean, and the sad thing, even about the, I should say, won't say the demise of Syracuse, which it is to me, from what we play when me and Danny were back there. But and Danny will tell you, it's just, there's three parts to a football game. There's offense, there's defense, there's special teams. There's no one part that's more important than others. You can look at, go to the NFL and look at someone like a Devin Hester who changed the game of special teams as far as football, for forever. Yeah. And to not have a special teams coach for 1/3 of the game just says a lot to me. It really, really does. You don't put emphasis on 1/3 of what's important to a game. That's a losing formula.
Well, and the thing is like look at your punters. This is the thing, and I'm not.
Oh no, that dude's horrible.
And that's the thing. Well, the backup too, though.
Come on, man.
But this is the thing, though. I'm going to tell you this about the punting situation.
Remember, this is D1 we're talking about.
I know, but this is what Dino said that week where the punter punted the ball 8 yards.
Yeah.
I can punt the ball 8 yards. He punted the ball 8 yards, and he said, "Well, you don't understand." He goes, "We brought him in because he does a special type of punt." And I said, "Yeah, an 8-yard one." Like that's a special one. And then he did it again. But this is the thing that I said. Syracuse could recruit really good punters of the last decade because nobody was good. The offense wasn't good. The punter, Nolan Cooney, Riley Dixon. There was so many guys. Sterling Hofrichter, who did both. There was so many successful guys punting the ball, and Syracuse is punting all the time. Now the offense is better, and there was nobody there to kind of teach anybody that's here. But I will never forget him saying, well, he was out there to do a specialty punt, and all I could think was 8-yard punts are special.
I just happened to get, I recruited Riley Dixon as a walk-on at Syracuse. So he's a CBA kid. His dad, Tommy Dixon.
Yeah.
He came to one of our camps, and I was working with Bob Cusullo at the time. We already had a punter committed, and at that time, each coach was supposed to have a walk-on also that you recruited. So I'm watching Riley, who at this point is 6'4", 6'5". He'd miss a ball, and then he'd smash a ball. I mean, it's like watching a golfer like Tiger Woods just hit that ball and go, just that beautiful. And then he'd shank a ball. And I ended up getting his dad to pay about $150,000 for 2 years until Schaefer ended up offering him a scholarship. He paid to go to school as a punter, Riley Dixon. And now he's in the NFL. He's right next door. You don't even, I mean, that's how we were recruiting back in the day. So
when you were on the staff, because like you said, Greg Robinson to Doug Marone,
right.
When you were on the staff at Syracuse,
right.
Did Greg and Doug, did they want to recruit locally? Did you try to get in their ear? What was the local flavor like back then?
It was almost like you got a strike against you if you're local, And we got a lineman from Baldwinsville, Carl Sanfilippo, and Doug had recruited him. I evaluated him, and he turned out to be a 2-year player for us. And
who was it?
I can't remember his name.
Okay.
Got hit in the head too many times. But he, really good kid. But we had a grading system in place, so there was 3 measurables: height, weight, and 40 time. And then there were 7 characteristics of playing the position, all 1 through 5. 5 being like the SEC, 4 being like the ACC, Big East, and then 3 was like a MAC school. So if you tallied up all the numbers and you got to a numerical value of like 32, then he was a potential scholarship player. And his high school film just wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And I just remember, and I love Carl Sanfilippo, and he's like, "But Dan, you see how big he is?" I go, "Yeah." It came down to where he ranked on the board, and he didn't rank numerically as a scholarship athlete at that point. So I got a phone call from Doug saying, "Hey, have you evaluated this kid?" I said, "Of course I have." I said, "He's in my recruiting area. I had Central New York in Section 3. And I said, "Yeah." I said, not only did I evaluate him, I watched 2 full game films on him.
Talking about Nick Robinson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was a local kid, so I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. He was a big kid.
Yeah.
And he, it was just a lot of runs. Wasn't very, he wasn't very good in the pass game as far as pass pro or kick slide or any of that. So he just didn't rank up numerically high enough with the people that we had on the board. But then you have to go realistically, who are we going to get? Yeah. You don't walk into a school anymore with an S on your jersey and say, like high school coaches would say, yeah, coach, you can't recruit this kid. You walk in with an ND on your jersey or with a T from Texas or an F from Florida, you can recruit any kid in the country. Any kid you want. So,
Florida recruiting a new head coach.
Danny and I were actually roommates back in the day. Me, Matt Patricia, and he just fired John Hevesy. We all lived together. We all
Dan
GA'd.
Mullen?
Yeah, we all GA'd together on
How
Coach
about
P's
Coach
staff.
P being down there?
Yeah, I just talked to Coach P like 6 weeks ago. He was kind of advising Danny as Danny, I think, respected Coach P enough to say, hey, listen, I got to have like Doug Marone had Johnny Anselmo to help him through the head coaching pains. And not that Danny needed that, but to have a guy, the accessibility of a Coach P on your staff to help you make critical decisions, that was crucial.
With Dan Mullen, though, like down in Florida, I thought, to me, a couple years ago, in my brain, I was like, hey, 2-3 years from now, we're talking about a team that could be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I did
like,
too.
what happened? They were tied with Samford this past week. It was like 42-42 in the third quarter. Like, what's going on with that? Because Dan Mullen's not a bad coach. And he was starting to turn the tide of what Muschamp wasn't doing anything in Florida, and they started to shift it.
Yeah, at those schools, you're expected to not only play for the SEC championship, but you're expected to play in a national championship.
You're supposed to lose like 3 games in like 10 years.
Yeah, and that's why like a Jimbo Fisher ends up leaving a Florida State or got fired from Florida State and got an $80 million.
That was money.
So he goes to Texas A&M after
got
getting
paid.
fired, but
And he beat Alabama, but guess what? Now every year, those Texas A&M fans are going to expect him to beat Alabama,
yeah,
which
you're
is
right.
crazy. You do it once in a lifetime, I'd be like, I retire.
Yeah. It's that whole SEC is a different world down there. So, John, I worked for Schaefer 3 years and then getting fired from Syracuse, or like they like to say, my contract just ran out, so they didn't actually fire me. But I worked for Schaefer 3 years and I worked for Doug for 3 years, and I was like, wow, I thought I was Schaef's guy. Then you get a guy like John Hevesy, who's been best friends with Danny Mullen for 14 years, and he gets fired. I go, did he become a bad coach? Like, what happened to Florida to where you can't run the football, or Todd Grantham? He's been a defensive coordinator for years.
Well, there's some coaches that'll. I forget who it was. I don't know. It might have been Mullen that said it recently. That he said it was easy to fire these people, and to me, I kind of like take a step back because like you're firing your friends. You know what I mean? Like it should not be. For goodness sakes, Dino would not fire Brian Ward, who was the best offensive coordinator for everybody else's team, as the defensive coordinator of Syracuse. If you looked at his trajectory, I actually did a by the.
He was bad.
Dude, I did a by the numbers. And as he went and coached, and the levels went up, he gave up more points. Like he gave up 17 points at whatever school it was, D2, something like that.
Was it
like
Bowling Green too? I remember you did a stat about his defense in Bowling Green.
Yeah, I gave you the numbers on that. He gave up like 24, then it was like 28. Then he came to Syracuse. He gave up 31 the first season, 38 the second season. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, yeah. And then the last 3 games that year of the Pittsburgh, like the basketball game, he gave up in the last 3 games of that season an average of 52 to 54 points a game.
I was coming home from Connecticut because we didn't get that game in Connecticut. Really? So I asked my son to look up the score of the, I think it was Pitt-Syracuse game, and he's like 78 to 60. And I go, buddy, not the basketball. I go, football. He goes, that is a football score.
Yeah.
And I go,
yeah.
I think the most points we ever gave up when I was coaching was 42 to Northwestern. Next was 38 to Southern Cal, who was actually pretty good.
Because they had Robert Woods and Marquise Lee that year that you played him in.
Right.
I was at MetLife. Yeah, I was there for the game.
And then we, the funny thing when I was working with Schaefer and with Doug, it was like, the running back for Louisville he was hurt, so the sophomore was coming in, Bilal Powell, first round draft choice for the Jets, and then it's like, oh, we're going to Louisville this year. They got a freshman quarterback, just this kid named Teddy Bridgewater. We end up losing 10-9 to him because we missed an extra point. But it's and I mean, you can see the coaches. The best coach that I've ever coached against was the guys the head coach at Iowa State right now, and I don't know if they're doing real well or not. He's a Pittsburgh kid, but he understood us so well defensively. He knew wherever we put, versus an empty set, you have a 3-by-2 formation, that we were going to set our 3 technique to the side of the 3 formation side. So basically setting the strength towards the wide receiver strength. So what he ended up doing is he'd overload the boundary with 3 receivers. So we'd set the front into the boundary, and then he'd go jet motion to the field, and all of a sudden the strength of our defense is where your overhang player's at. Is into the boundary, and he's got the whole field. And I go,
That's actually smart.
I go, this guy's. I mean, he knew us better than we knew ourselves.
I try and tell people, football is a chess game.
It is.
It's just like it's figuring out your strengths. You want to put them in a position through motion and things of that nature to understand that now your strengths are your strengths. It's not your weaknesses against them. And the defense is doing the same thing.
You could ask Drum, like in the NFL. I mean, even in just regular major college football, you'll see a lot of motions and trades, and really what the quarterbacks are seeing is it man or is it zone.
Yes.
And you get somebody running across the formation, all of a sudden you see somebody running with him, it's man.
Yep.
Well, so what are you doing at man? Well, make your halftime adjustments or quarterly adjustments where you're going bunches and clusters, and you're either going to get them to check to a zone concept, or you're going to have stacked receivers and you run pick routes. Like those are the adjustments that happen within a game. So
I love this. Can you please go coach at Syracuse? But I love just sitting and I'm hearing it. I'm hearing jargon. It's going in the brain. This is real football, folks.
So the thing
I just stumbled upon listen to you. You played for all those years and now you're not playing anymore. You played for all those years and you're not playing anymore. You guys can literally pick apart this chess game and just you understand it.
We understand the game.
But I love that.
We understand the game.
I love that.
It's not. I mean, even I'll take me. For
I
instance,
can't play Madden against him. I cannot play Madden against him.
I can't play the game, but I understand the game of football.
But you know everything that I'm doing.
I understand the game of football.
I can't do anything. I'm going to do that Florida State non-prevent defense where they don't send anybody back. You remember that one?
Yes.
When they against Jacksonville State? When they sent because Syracuse played that at some point this year, where like the only thing you have to do in the last play of the game is play prevent defense, send your guys back, literally put a wall in front of the end zone. They let him catch the ball. But think about it. They let him catch the ball, and once he caught the ball, the receiver was 10 yards out, and he went like this to the Florida State guy from Jacksonville State. He pushed on him, and then the guy ran with him into the end zone, and I'm going, tackle him. But you're talking real football today. I want to just like throw a play out there and just let you guys go at it again. I like this.
Here's the thing about football. It's about creating mismatches.
you're right.
That's all it is.
You get a guy like me
It's about creating
in
mismatches.
drums, like straight. You don't see 6'3", 240-pound running backs. Maybe at Alabama and the Tennessee Titans, but
He says he can't play anymore and he can't do nothing. I'm like Rob is going to retire as my bodyguard.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to do.
That's the
when I
mismatch.
start doing my Netflix specials and I start talking about my ex-girlfriends and they start showing up at these things, Rob's my bodyguard.
I'll tell you. Who changed the game was Rich Rodriguez when he was down at Glenville State. So we'd go. I remember walking into Miramar High School down in Florida once, and I always knew. So I think a lot of the Florida coaches were trying to take a little bit of advantage of the new guy down there. And they were like, "Coach, I got a player for you, man. I got a player for you." And I was like, "How big is he, Coach?" I'm telling you, he's legit. He's like 5'8". I'm like.
That's not.
I know if he's lower than my chin, we don't recruit him because this is 6 foot right here. I mean, that was something we just had to. You had to know how tall kids were. I mean, that was one of the things Doug used to say is you can get fired for telling me it's a 6'5" kid. He's actually 6'2". So what Rich Rodriguez did was, so he went into these high schools and the coach would say, "I got a great player, but he's 5'7". What's his name? Noel Devine. Okay, I'll take him. So he ends up basically creating the mismatches for the outside backers. I was the smallest of Garland Hawkins and JoJo Woodens. So now you get me walking out on Wesley Carroll from Miami. Guess what? Had a career day, 12 receptions. And now I tackled him every time he caught the ball, but it was a mismatch. So it was a semi-skilled kid on a skilled kid. And now they changed the game. So now they line up in 4 wide receivers. The whole spread offense, read offense, that's nothing more than midline load option, speed option. It's just now out of the gun and who you're reading. So that changed, you know, and Greg Robinson said it the best. Football's now become basketball on grass.
Yeah.
So now you got a lot of the skilled kids are now outside backers. So their safeties are moving outside backers and vice versa. It's the Miami philosophy from playing Tampa 2 way back in the day. That was the one thing that I didn't like when somebody said, you know, I think the chancellor asked me, he's like, you know, what do you think about our new coaching staff? And I said, I love the fast paced on offense. I think you got to get back to something.
You talking
like
about current?
That. Yeah.
Okay.
This was when we were playing St. John's and short shorts came back, and I literally took a picture of a guy underneath the rims from St. John's wearing short shorts. He had those jokers hacked up like through the thigh. So I sent it to my son.
Dennis Rodman type.
Yeah. So I sent the picture to my son, and I said, hey, short shorts are back in. So I think I may have started that craze back here in Syracuse. But then I went up to the chancellor's box during halftime, and we were talking. He's like, what do you think of our new football staff? And this is when Dino first got hired. And I said, I love what they're doing on offense. You know, that fast-paced offense, the defensive coordinator doesn't even watch the game. He's just got to keep his eyes on the playlist because it's so fast. All he needs is a down and distance, and then what the personnel is. And Northwestern was great because this is before they made the exception where you have to give the defensive team time to make a substitution now. They'd come out 11 personnel with the first play, which is basically 3 wide receivers set, tight end, and a back. Now we go on our base defense, and before we'd even see it, here comes the 4th receiver, and now we're in our base defense, and we really want to be in a 3-4 defense.
Now you have a linebacker on
yeah, now you got your mismatch. And so, you know, I'm trying to signal stuff in, and I'm calling in base defenses because Schaaf doesn't even have the call out yet. So that itself, that fast-paced offense creates an issue just for the coaches calling plays in. I said special teams to me is going to be a push. I think he's doing a nice job. But I go, how do you come in and say, hey, we're Syracuse. We're gonna live being a Tampa 2 team. You got to have the cats up front to be able to 2-gap and basically play 7 guys in the front.
Well, how do you read and react? You can't read and react. You can't.
Well, you have to teach that. Yeah. Read and react is so.
I mean, Schaaf used to attack the hell
Football
out of
is a
people.
cerebral game, big time.
But you think about Zaire Franklin was my perfect example.
Blocked the punt.
2 years with Schaaf.
Saw that.
2 years with Schaaf.
Yeah.
And that man was highlight reel city. 2 years with Dino in that read and react, kind of stand and wait for something. And he's a 7th round pick when he should have been a 3rd round pick. He makes the team, which I wasn't surprised. He's a captain now, and I think Colts fans were like, how the hell did this guy make the team? And I'm going, because he had 2 years of a really crappy film because of the defense that he was in. But if Schaaf was there, the guy would have been a phenomenal, you know what I mean? Like he was hurt by the fact that the defensive scheme changed because and this is the prime example. What did Schaaf do when he was at Middle Tennessee State and he came back as D coordinator? He played Syracuse, played the same harassment defense that he had at Syracuse, and he beat Syracuse.
Yep.
He had Dungy in the end zone on the first drive.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a linebacker coach in the NFL that went to Fayetteville Manlius, and I love him to death. He came to my house about 6 years ago.
Not De Leon, is it?
Yeah.
Oh God.
and so Mark's coaching in the NFL, and
I didn't know that. I saw Mark a few years ago.
He rolls, and I love Mark De Leon. I mean, he was one of the brightest guys.
I was a little kid when I was
He was a kid when we were
that's
playing.
how old I am.
So he comes to the house and he's wearing all Kansas City Chiefs stuff. And before, the last time I'd seen him, he was a graduate assistant with Florida, with Urban Meyer, and Steve Adazio was down coaching because I was recruiting Steve's kid. So anyways, he walks in and we start shooting the crap. I go, you coach, what are you doing now? You like a quality control for Kansas City? He's like, no, I'm the outside linebacker coach. And I was like, oh. And then here I am sitting on the couch unemployed. And Mark's like, you got any tackling video? And I was like, yeah. I said, what kind of system are you looking at? He's like, what? I said, there's different kind of systems. You know, there's like the Bill Williams where it's shimmy, compress. It's a Greg Robinson. I said, and then like Schaaf was a Bobby Stoop guy. Like we were a 4-3 quarter team where we played man-to-man with the corners. And we just flew to the football. We never slowed down to make a tackle.
Create chaos.
And if you look at, when you watch the film of that 4-3 defense, those linebackers.
Shavers?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We got them to come downhill. They were
Unbelievable.
downhill guys. And the quicker that you can come downhill, the quicker you pull off double teams from 3 techniques and noses. So we would, we'd be in doubles. And I'll tell you, I used to take, and I remember Greg Robinson telling me that, and Greg and I, you know, I was told that was the toughest position to coach on the team because he was a former linebacker.
Outside
coach.
linebacker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the linebacker
Yeah.
coach for Greg. So Darrell Smith, who's a great kid, was a little bit tunnel vision early on. So you've got to be able to teach, key, and diagnose. And I listen to coaches all the time say, yeah, we have our linebackers key the fullback. I said, well, if the tailback steps left and the fullback steps right, where's he going? Well, he's stepping with the fullback. I go, why? It's inside zone. The tailback's getting the ball. I go, the problem is you have some linebacker coaches don't understand how to teach the kids what the reads are. So when you truly understand it, as a matter of fact, we used to do this drill called the Ted Williams drill. So Ted Williams, in theory, was a lefty, was a right-handed batter, but he was weak on his right side. So he'd sit on the other side of the bus and cover up his good eye and strengthen his other eye. So what I did was I videotaped. Let's say somebody else videotaped driving from Erie to Buffalo for about 20 minutes, because if I did it would be dangerous. I wouldn't do anything dangerous like that. So then I took my video and I just was holding it like this and driving. And so for 15, 20 minutes, I took that video, and then I had Luke Fickle did this. He talked about this at a clinic a couple years ago. So we put it up in the linebacker room. So I'd go, hey, who wants to play a game? And so, Drum and I would sit there, and I'd say, okay, the car in front of us is our key. What do you see? What are you talking about, Coach? Well, I see a bridge, I see a yellow sign, I see a Mack truck, I see blue sweater, I see drums. This person's sitting right over here. You're shaking
so funny.
your feet.
I do that all the time with the ocular drills.
Yeah, and so you're basically teaching you're teaching you how to strengthen your eye, key and diagnose.
Well, I tell you that when you're driving, that you should never look in one place. You should always be like pointing, because like a deer, but for everything, you should always be looking for.
Like Dan said, being able to scan everything saved my life as a 15-year professional athlete.
Yeah, you've got to see where the tackles.
This is like if this was not my show, I would be watching this show like salivating right now. This is awesome information.
But
I love this, and I'm the same as Dan. I'm always like, when people are like, "Oh, that video that you had, were you driving?" And I'm like, well, I wouldn't do that. I have the hands-free stick thing that's on my window.
Literally,
I don't, Dan.
Even when Danny's talking about me, I do drills now as a personal trainer where I'll get 7 different cones, 7 different colored cones, and I put them on the ground. And then I have like these sticks. They're called Hiko sticks, and they're tripods, so it's 3 of them. And so what I'll do is I'll call out 2 colors. I'll be like, the first color is for the colors on the ground. The second color I want you to catch with your left hand. So I'll call out 2 colors, blue. So they got to step to the blue, they got to reach up and then grab a cone that's blue coming in the air at them. So it teaches them, peripheral vision. It teaches them depth perception. It teaches them, now they got to listen, to my command. And so now there's 7 different colors on the ground. Within a matter of seconds, you got to be able to to step to the one color that I just called, and be able to step and catch a cone that or a band that I just throw you in the air.
Yeah.
And I'll have them do that. Like I'll have the first person go. They'll do like 5, 6, or 7. I'll have the next person go. They'll do 5, 6, or 7. Then I'll have them turn around and do the exact same thing. I want you to turn and step to the cone, step to the colored cone. I have to show it to you sometime. It's the most interesting thing.
Can we start a new university here in Syracuse? Start coaching?
There's just exercises that
I'll be quality
over
control.
the year.
With that.
We gotta get an old building. We'll call it IMG of the North.
Yeah, so there you go.
I just want to wrap this up. So this whole key and diagnose thing, as far as like linebackers being able to trigger quickly, that's taught. Yes. There are a handful of linebackers that naturally, like myself, I'd see full flow going in one direction, but I'd see like confusion and it. So all of a sudden now you see it's some type of misdirection or counterplay. So I really put some time in on trying to understand. The path of the tailback. Is he taking a drop step? Drop steps are timing steps for power plays to get the backside guard to wrap around. And then why does a quarterback reverse out on a power play? Why does, Carl Sanfilippo, he's incorporated 2 different, an inside zone with like a power play and created some new interesting kind of plays. But so we would go outside, and I think the thing with college football is everybody's in a race, and you see, do yourself a favor. Count how many times you see coaches clapping on the sideline. That's basically coaches coaching out of fear, going, "Come on, guys, come on!" Trying to save their jobs. I often said to myself, I said, I don't plan on getting back into college coaching, but I said years ago, if I ever got back into it, I wouldn't be the clapper guy. The clapper guy is trying to save his job. And it's like, come on, guys, be excited, and you're like, you're begging the kids because it's like. not being able to, working with Schaefer, it's like you can only control what you can control. Control the controllables.
Control the controllables. Yep.
So
I've heard that like every day since he said that.
Yeah.
It's always with me now.
and it's that's one thing. Sometimes your kids go out and they don't play well for whatever reason. They had a bad week. They had a bad girlfriend break up with them, and it's like.
But he coached well. I mean, like
Schaefer
what
was a very
He's a heck
good
of a
football
coach,
coach.
and his staff. You talk about being part of the staff. The recruiting of I had somebody ask me on a Pennsylvania radio station, I think it was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They said, "Will Syracuse ever win again?" And I laughed, and I said, "They're already winning." And the guy was silent, and his co-host was silent. I said, "You guys don't get it." I said, "You're not seeing it on Saturdays yet."
Yeah.
But the players they're bringing in, and the fact that these guys want to run through a wall for all these coaches, I said, "Listen, these coaches tell the truth. They care, and they're building something." He was winning in recruiting, and I said the only difference between Scott Schaefer, Dave Doran, and Dave Clausen is that Dave Clausen at Wake Forest and Dave Doran at NC State were given time. Schaefer wasn't given time.
They should have never
But
no, you can't fire Schaefer after
No.
3 years.
No.
you would have thought he played here. You would have legitimately thought he wanted to die here.
I'll share this with you. You may have been at, I don't know if you were at one of the golf outings at the Turning Stone for the alumni. No. So he comes up, and I think this is his last year, and his third year coaching at Syracuse, and now he's put 6 years in. I think he joked about being here as long as Conley's been here, because I was a 6-year guy. So he gets up and he goes, "Hey, just want to kind of report on what we've been doing this summer. The kids did 300 hours of community service in the spring. We finished with a 2.8 GPA. We did X, Y, and Z, and I trade all of that for a winning season." and everyone, everyone's like shocked, but that's how real Schaefer was. It was about developing these young kids and winning football games, and he was one of those guys that, players loved him. Like they would run through. It's a common saying, but.
Schaefer was a great guy off the field.
I used to signal the defenses in when Schaefer would call them. The back and forth between he and Doug during practices was really quite interesting. So it was. It's too bad, and I hope that Dino and his staff do have an opportunity to win one of these next couple games, but. I really don't think that they gave Schaefer an honest time.
None of us do.
It took Dick McPherson 7 years to get the program.
They definitely didn't give him enough time.
Clausen literally said, when we were on a teleconference a few years ago and I was talking to him, he said that when Wake Forest interviewed him, he told them flat out, if you're going to give me like a year or two to do this, don't hire me.
Right.
Like, I don't want this job unless you understand that I need time.
Right.
And Doran, and I say this all the time, and I've said it for years, Dave Doran, Dave Clausen, Scott Schaefer all came in around the same time, and you see success, let them go. And here's the thing. People say, well, Schaefer got fired because of his time. He wasn't good with his timeouts. He wasn't good with clock management. He wasn't good with this and that. Same thing we're seeing now, but you got 6 years of it. So, and I tell people all the time, 10-3 season, you can thank Scott Schaefer. You can thank Tim Lester. Like, there's so much to Mo Neal. That was DeAndre Smith. And they misused him, and he had 2,560 yards rushing. If he was a true running back his first 2 seasons, he would have had 3,500 yards. Yeah. And Mo Neal, how about this? And this is another thing that plays to the fact that Dino goes back to Jimmy Garoppolo and says, look what I did. He doesn't have a bridge to the NFL. And case in point, a lot of these guys don't get drafted. If they get drafted, they don't get drafted high until this year with like Cisco and Afatu and all them. But Zaire would have been so much higher, like I said, in a better defense. But I look back on this and I say to myself, Mo Neal is still not in the NFL.
He's not playing anywhere?
No.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And the thing is, he's one of your top backs historically, averaged 5 yards a carry, but he didn't get a lick of a chance. And when I look back on Scott Schaefer's time and I look at 3 years, remember, he wasn't on a billboard. They didn't do it. Syracuse basically used him as like duct tape. And they were going to fire him the day that they hired him, and you could feel that. They never put him on anything. Dino got hired. He's plastered everywhere. They gave us a media guide, and the media guide separated by chapters. The chapter about you guys, the alumni, about everything you guys did, his face was on it. The chapter about Jim Brown, his face was on it. The chapter about the records, his face was on it.
I remember that.
And I remember looking at this going, there's 7 pictures of Dino, and it's the same picture, and yet Scott Schaefer, there's like this little tiny like school photo thing, and nobody knew that he was a head coach. And I said that to Joe Adam. I go, there's no banners, there was no love, there was no anything. And Schaefer, again, to go back to my point on that radio station, he was winning in recruiting because I'm talking to the kids. You know, I'm speaking with these kids all the time, and the way that they spoke about him and his staff was different. So I said to them, you may not see the wins now, but you're going to see these wins. And the thing that killed me was Joe Adam recruited an entire offensive line, and he said to me, he goes, Dan, I don't get to coach a single one of the guys. He brought in a left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. He didn't get to touch any of them. And one of them was Evan Adams, who played for the Baltimore Ravens. And he's coaching still at St. Anselm, Joe Adams.
I mean, for me, honestly, I mean, you can tell a coach by the personality of who the person is. Scott Schaefer was a great guy off the field.
He was real.
Easy to talk to. Always talked football, knew his X's and O's, understood his players, understood what it took to be in the community.
Yeah.
Also,
Well, Conley said he didn't hide anything. I throw all that away for a winning season. Like, he was, when you talk about
He's a
running
great
through
guy.
a wall, he came, his first, so when he got hired, I interviewed him one time when he was the defensive coordinator, back when we were allowed to interview assistant coaches. Just want to make that out. So when we could actually know them, because when they got hired, he opened the door and he let them all come into the room at the football wing, and so he let them all come in there to the auditorium, and that's where I met them all, and DeAndre and everybody.
Easily?
Talked to everybody. What?
Easily?
No. Before that was built, right at the football wing, so with the Hall of Fame and all that. So he let them all come in. We're talking to everybody. I walked down there, and I'll never forget 2 things about that day. Missy, who I talked to all the way through, and I just had Wolf on the show, and Elsa. So Missy's sitting a couple seats down from me, and she's like, I like reading all your guys' stuff, but I won't be reading it after today. And then she kind of like looked at me because, you know, I mean, like, I was different. I tell the truth. Like, there's a way to talk about a player, constructively criticize them, and still have them respect you after the game, where they give you a hug instead of not wanting to talk to you.
The truth is the truth. I mean,
Right, but the thing is like, there's a way to not be a jerk about, you know, you don't. There's a way to speak about people, and there's a way to misrepresent people, and I don't do that. Misquote people, because players do that. I mean, media does it all the time. You know that,
Bro, if you're not good, you're not good.
right?
Sorry.
But I'm talking about misquoting and disrespect.
I understand.
Like Frank Howard would have a tough game, and him and I would still talk after the game.
Yeah. I mean,
So Schaefer that day, so Missy says that. I walk down to see Schaefer, talk to him one time. He grabs
guy.
me, gives me a big hug, and he goes, Danny, thank you so much for being here. And I was like, I don't think I deserve this. First win he had, he's walking down. I'm right outside of stadium control, and I saw him, and I go up to him. He grabs me, he gives me a big hug, and he pulls back, and he goes, we did it, Danny, we did it. And he's got me by my shoulders, and I go, God, I want to play for you. And then the day that he got fired, came outside, he hugged me. I was super emotional because that day freaking killed me because he's just a good man. And I just couldn't deal with that day. I still can't. And he gave me a hug, and I gave him a hug. And then right before he got in the car, he gave me another hug. And before I could even say it, he goes, I love you. I said, I love you too, Coach. And to this day, like, I would still run through a brick wall for him.
that sounds like Coach Mack. Sounds exactly like
That
Coach
was
Mack.
Schaefer. Like, you literally thought, people would ask me, they're like, Schaefer played here, didn't he? I'm like, no, he didn't.
Coach P was the same way. Like I said, coaches to where, I mean, and I can say this from somebody who's who's in the inner city of Syracuse all the time, because I really grew up there, you know, until I was 10 and moved out to Janesville. But Dino Babers could walk in the inner city of Syracuse right now, and I guarantee you 80 to 90% of the people would have no idea who he is. Whereas Coach Mack would have did the same thing during this time, Coach P would have did the same thing during this time, even Coach Schaefer, and everybody would know who the hell
You
they
know,
are.
I met Coach P finally.
That's the truth.
But it is. And Coach P, I respected him because that's who I grew up on. So
Great
you know,
man. Great
Coach
man.
Mack was
Great
like
coach.
when I was really, really little, and then it was Coach P when my dad was bringing me to the Dome. And Coach P, I tell you this, I had never gotten to interview him when he was at Syracuse because I was too young. So I finally got to interview him when he was in his 3rd season at UConn. It was right before he got fired from UConn. And I'm at this event in Newport, Rhode Island, and we're at the Hotel Viking. And I walk up to him, I said, Coach, can I talk to you for a second? And I said, we'll talk about UConn and all this, but I gotta talk to you about Syracuse because like I've been waiting my whole life to do this. I gotta tell you this. I don't know how everybody else felt about, but this is to your point. When I interviewed him as a media person and he looked at me, I was like, God, I'm afraid of this guy. Like Coach P, just like he commanded, like he would look at you, and I'm just like, I wanted to apologize for something I didn't do. You know what I mean? Like he just commanded the room. He had that.
I talked to him probably 6 weeks ago, and it's ingrained in you to try to get off the phone as soon as possible because you know how busy he is.
Yes.
And I'm like, and he just kept talking, and it was awesome to talk to him and catch up with him. But I felt bad that I took 25 minutes of his time. He was, he just
Never not
72
working.
years old. He's the guy he's always working.
Think about it. He gets fired from Syracuse, and he's at UConn. He's at BC. He's with the Texans. He's with the Cowboys. He's with the Dolphins. It's like that man always has a job if he wants. He has to say no. Like he'll be hired for the rest of his life. And one of the greatest moments ever, and I love this guy too, Steve Adazio, is that Steve Adazio was at BC, and he hired Paul Pasqualoni, the coach that hired him. He hired Paul, and he got to do that role reversal and bring Paul onto the staff to work with him at BC for a couple of years.
Yeah.
That was such a cool moment. And by the way, recruiting locally in Central New York, Steve Adazio, first thing he did when he got to Colorado State, 2 weeks that he was there, he offered Mike Washington Jr. from CNS.
I remember that.
Immediately. And he's the one that told me, he goes, if you're going to recruit successfully, to your point before, he said you recruit from your backyard 5 hours.
Right.
He said you do a 5-hour radius. That's how you recruit. And he goes, I'm always going to look at Central and upstate New York. But it just says something how Randy Edsel, Steve Adazio, Paul Pasqualoni, on and on and on, that the Big Ten, Nick Saban at one point here, the Big Ten, Nick Saban, UConn, wherever Steve Adazio goes, they're
Tressel.
People locally.
Tressel.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, Jim Tressel, yeah. I mean, like, they're recruiting up here.
Some people say why? Because your parents can drive to the home game.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's once you get past 6 hours, like my best trip I had was down to Georgia Tech, my visits, but it was like 86 degrees in January. I was asthmatic, and I go, my parents aren't going to be able to come down and see every game. It's hot as down here, and I go, what's it going to be like in August? I go, I just needed to stay in the Northeast because of my asthma. So, but as far as best trips, Georgia Tech was a heck of a place. Atlanta was awesome, and. But yeah, I was 5.5 hours from, Pittsburgh's 5.5 hours from here. So
Why don't you get off the MARTA, that little tram thing that brings you from Atlanta's massive airport into the city? I got off at the wrong exit coming out of the Final Four. It was terrifying. There's just like people talking to themselves, just circling the train stations, and I'm thinking. And then there's chains. Like once you leave, there's like bar doors. Once you leave the bus station, or not the bus station, once you leave like the tram station, it locks and it looks like a jail. And so like I'm locked out. You got to scan your card again. It's 2:00 in the morning. There's people talking to themselves. Like Atlanta is a different place.
It's a large city.
You know what they told me, the
Very
Uber
large
drivers?
city.
They told me when they dropped me off at the game, I was at the Florida State-Alabama game for the Chick-fil-A kickoff game a few years ago. They said, good luck finding a ride home because most of us don't come here at night. I waited outside until 1:30 in the morning for someone to drive me 10 minutes back to my hotel because where the stadium's built, like most stadiums, there's a very impoverished area right next to it. So they won't drive there late at night because they're afraid to.
Getting robbed. I mean, I see that.
Yeah.
Got to safety first.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't even know how to walk. If I walked back, I'd get there right now from 2 years ago. I'd have to walk on the highway. Like, that's one place I will drive anywhere. But there's one, like, I'm back in the Uber car, and the driver's just going up and down the hill, like, through the highway of Atlanta. I go, I'm never driving in Atlanta. I will never drive in Atlanta. I also walked around Chicago at 1:00 in the morning for the Final Four, or Sweet 16, Elite 8, when Syracuse was there.
Yeah.
My dad didn't tell me anything. My dad's a prosecutor. Said none of this stuff. I'm walking through Chicago. I got lost. I got the GPS on my phone. I'm trying to go back to my hotel because I went to go see a movie. I had an open day, and I like going to movies. I like touring around. So I got something to eat, went to go see a movie, And my dad tells me 4 days after I got home, he goes, you know, Chicago has the highest stab rate in the country. I was like, you know, your son was out there at 1:15 in the morning, right?
Don't you watch Wednesday night TV? Chicago PD.
I watch them all now.
Actually, I watched that show. It's pretty
Chicago,
good.
no, you got to watch them all because they're all connected now.
I'm not watching.
Chicago Med, Chicago
No.
PD, Chicago
I
Fire.
watch Chicago Fire and I watch Chicago Police.
Yeah,
Or
Chicago PD.
Chicago PD. I don't
And
watch,
you know what?
I don't watch Chicago Med.
I prognosticated what just happened on this because I was talking about this this past week. I said, I'm telling you what's going to happen. That the main guy on Chicago PD, how he
Voight.
yeah, how he hid that body, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. I said I was like, mark my words, because I know TV shows, because I like screenwriting and it's something I want to do and that I've worked on. I said, mark my words, that is an underlying undertone of the show.
Well, he's crooked.
And I said, but I was like, somebody's going to find something. There's going to be some evidence. They're going to catch him. The next episode, they got the FBI agent looking for him, and it's going to end. Mark my words, it's going to end with them either arresting him or the FBI's guy is going to find him. And he's going to say, "We need to talk to you."
He didn't kill the guy though. She did.
But he hid the body.
He hit the body, but she killed him.
You know what his problem is? He's not Italian. Because if he was Italian, that body'd be gone.
On the body, no, it'd be in the bottom of the Hudson or somewhere.
Rob, what you do when you're Italian is you dip their feet in cement, so no matter how shallow the river gets, they always stay on the bottom, right?
This is not the 50s or 60s. They'll still float.
If you want to clean up the streets, you just call the mob back in. They'll clean up the streets.
It's a show, Dan.
You want to talk about the Cowboys again?
No.
So, Dan, you've spent extra time with us here. Before we let you go here, and you know, we talk about Syracuse then and now. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about one of my favorite players in all of Syracuse history. He didn't wear number 44. The man sitting to my left didn't wear number 44 either, and he wore 36. This man wears 34, and he stopped me from having to say it's been a decade since there's a 1,000-yard rusher at Syracuse. I compared Sean Tucker to Rob Drummond going into this season because of the lunch pail mentality he has. He's quiet. He just wants to play. He's humble. He doesn't really talk about himself.
Right.
He built his body. He just wants to go to work. No one's going to take his job. He's super blue collar. All I saw in this was this like Rob Drummond. People don't have high expectations of him, but he has high expectations of himself.
Right.
What are your thoughts on Sean Tucker and what he's been able to do? And I guess the second part of this is, should he wear 44 if they gave it to him?
Yeah. I don't think they should have ever taken 44 off the table. I mean, we talked about that as a coaching staff. I mean, it's one of your biggest recruiting tools when you're recruiting a running back. Do I think giving a kid off the street the number 44? I mean, that's the way they used to do it. You know.
That's how they used to do it. It's a recruiting tool.
It comes. I don't know. It comes down to being held accountable for your own recruiting, I guess. But I saw John Wallace the other night at the basketball game. And then showing my kids that his jerseys were tired up there along with Coleman. And
They were both there.
Yeah, I'd totally be in favor of giving the kid 44. I think he's earned it. He's. I see he and Drum as two completely different running style backs. Obviously,
Not by style, just by like blue collar, like nobody expects anything out of me. He's from Owings, Maryland.
Sure.
Not a 3-star, maybe a 3-star.
Yeah, I always Drum reminds me of Doug Hogue when he used to play. I'm a real athletic, tall guy. I mean, you don't see tall guys being able to bend. You got to be vertical guys got to be really strong to be able to bend in the knees and hips, to be able to sit down and change direction as quickly as they do. So, but I see Tucker's just being one of those. He reminds me of the kids that play running back at Oklahoma, those thick running backs, and just go.
Right.
So I really like him. Absolutely, I'd let him wear 44.
We talked about this before.
My whole
because
philosophy
you
on
chose
this thing
not
is,
to wear it.
you know what? It's just I didn't. Me personally, I don't wake up every single day to go out there and work as hard as I do to become somebody else. I wake up every single day to go out there and work as hard as I do to become Robert Drummond, and I don't mean that in a kind of condescending, kind of ignorant, kind of just I'm the best kind of way. I just mean it as someone who wants to work hard to make a name for myself. I don't want to make a name for somebody else. Going out and wearing the number 44, as great as it may seem, means you'll always be attached to that number. Right now, I know Sean Tucker is the number 34 who went to Syracuse without any of this fanfare or anything and made a name for himself.
Yeah. But think about Joe Morris, who didn't wear 44.
Number 47.
You know what I mean? Like,
ever.
he's when people, especially like the youth of today, they don't know Joe Morris because they only know the 44 line. So do you hurt yourself by not wearing 44? Because people know Ernie Davis, they know Jim Brown, they know Floyd Little because of that number, Rob Conrad because of that number. So Joe Morris, it's like people forget about him because he was 47.
Yeah, but look at all the names you're attaching to it. You know, so say Sean decides to win 34. Sean Tucker, Rob Conrad, Michael Owens, Terry Richardson. You know,
Mandel Ray Robinson.
I mean, holy smokes! It's like so.
And there's a long list of hits and there's a long list of misses with that too.
To where I mean, I can go down the list of players that I've played with. You know, and like Scott Swady, 16, Don McPherson, number 9, Dan Conley, 49, me, 36, Tommy Kane, 82, DeVal Glover, 81, Pat Davis, 87. I can go on and on and on about the great players that played at Syracuse and the numbers that they made, you know, prevalent their selves.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not
well,
about
5 is another big number. Another big number
Donovan.
that's been worn by people that.
Yeah.
I mean, Marvin Graves, Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
But then there's other guys that have worn it that are not a quarterback. You know, they're playing a different position, playing on defense. And some people have worn it well, and some people.
I mean,
but I would argue that 44. If 44 is the number at Syracuse, the second number is 5 for football.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's 5. It's an honor to wear 5.
I'll jump in because I showed you this. I was 44 in high school for that guy right there, Brian Bosworth. Oh, wow. So the Boz and I are actually a little bit friendly, so we text each other back and forth.
Yeah.
So that picture's me playing fullback back in Carleton High School.
Yeah. Can we make this bigger? I want to show them.
And so that's me wearing 44. And so when I came to Syracuse, Mike Owens was 44. So I went up to Kyle Federle, and I said, Kyle, I said, can I, when Mike Owens, because they had me, I was going in 55, but Buse was in 55, so I had to wear 54, worst number ever. So I go, is there any chance I can get 44? And he just laughed and put his arm around me. He goes, son, you don't know crap about Syracuse, do you? And he said some other words, and I said, so I didn't know anything about the number 44, but that goes all the way back for me for Brian Bosworth. And he was a guy waiting for his time, but
Burnett did not like the Boz. Oh.
Yeah, but that was, anyways. I'm going into my senior year for my last home game. I almost asked Coach P if I could wear the number for one game.
Well, that was a thing that we talked about too. Was like let somebody wear it for a game. It could be Riley Dixon. It could be Eric Dungy. It could be Sean Tucker.
Then auction it off. Just make it a special moment.
On senior day, let one person, like the person on your team, your leader, wear it.
I'd be fine with that.
Because Dungy should have wore 44 at least for a day. Camping World Bowl 44. That would have been cool.
Yeah, there's a quarterback from Michigan that wore 98. Isn't 98 like a
punter from Michigan?
No, there was a quarterback that wore. There's a number at Michigan that's a really well-known number. It's like 97 or 98, and I remembered a couple years ago.
Well, I know Belichick made his quarterback. He made Mac Jones wear some weird like number 60.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was like, why are you doing? It looks like a lineman. Like, why are you doing that to this poor guy? But no, I mean, I think it should be available.
Yeah.
And what I heard from asking the questions is that when Pete Sala took over as the interim AD, and they said that they unretired it or whatever, that there's like so much legal stuff and whatnot that when they said they unretired it, there's the notion that they didn't, but it was just a publicity thing. So like it is retired, but it's not retired, but it could be.
I can get him some publicity, win games. I can do all the publicity in the world. Win some games. Win more than 6.
But can we just go back to Paul Pasqualoni for a second here?
Got fired for going back-to-back years 6-6. I'll say it again.
11 winning seasons.
8 million times.
11 winning seasons, 1 losing season, 2 6-6 wasn't good enough. Now Syracuse fans think that they're national champions if they go 6-6.
Yeah, it's changed.
6-6 is 500. You don't deserve to go to the postseason if you don't have a winning record.
But in the same respect, it gives the team more.
But there's 40 some odd bowls now.
More chance of practice, more chance to evaluate.
Yeah, it's a great thing to do.
What was taken away from from them, from all the concussions and and just NCAA scaling back on the practices and things you can do. to get for more practices, give those guys
It's
a
great
lot
in
more chance to
recruiting.
get
It's
a
great
chance.
with money. It's great
Money,
with
recruiting, the chance to get on the field, the chance to evaluate your players. So it gives the coaches a lot more time to evaluate the players that they didn't have before.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's an absolute beautiful thing that we have that. But the Beef O'Brady's and the Cheez-It Bowl and one day I'll be able to have the Wake Up Call Bowl because all you got to do is just give them a check and say I'm going to do the Wake Up Call Bowl in Syracuse.
That is so true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
the Dollar General Bowl.
Bro, it's you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's almost
Like how many people go to Dollar General to spend $1 that they can afford to have the Dollar General Bowl?
There was a team that was 5
Are you
and
buying
7 at one
Cheez-Its
point
right
in a
now?
bowl game. It was 5 and 7. 5 and 17 was in a bowl
Yeah.
game.
There was a 4-8 team that was in
I
because
say,
they ran out of space.
Wow. You gotta be
Last
kidding.
year you could do you could play 6 games, like 6 games because of the COVID year or whatever, and go to a bowl game last year. There were teams going to bowl games that were 4-4. I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing to it now.
No,
You
it's
know what I
not.
mean?
They
And
don't-
they start on like December 12th, December 13th. They start so early.
Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah, well, and look at the world we live in today with everybody getting a trophy.
Everybody gets a
15th
trophy.
place gets a trophy.
Matter of fact, I'll get on my selfie right here and show you my trophy. I went 2 and 6, but I get a trophy. There
Yeah.
you go. That's teaching positive vibes right
Yeah,
there.
like 2 + 2 is 18. Well, you get an A because we can't fail
God
anybody.
forbid you actually lose, and learn a valuable lesson about working harder the next year to get better. But no, I gotta work harder. Why would I have to work
Yeah.
harder? Man,
They make
I can-
everybody
I
the
can-
CEO.
I can be average and I still get a prize.
But you think about this. If
No,
everybody's the
pass.
CEO, nobody's the CEO. If everybody gets a trophy, then nobody won.
That's right.
that's,
Then why even play the game?
that's a problem with athletics today.
That's a problem with America today.
That's a whole different story.
I
for a
know it
whole
is.
different
I
day,
like-
for a
I like
whole
poking the bear.
different
I'm gonna
level.
let you guys take that one.
So,
whole different
but,
level.
and look at it's 44. So there you go, Conley. So we got about. I think that both people that are here with me today, I think you should have been able to wear it for everything you did at Syracuse, and I know that you were offered it, and I think you were deserving of it.
But
You deserved it.
But here's the thing.
You did.
I'm not Jim Brown. I'm
I
not
know.
Ernie Davis. I'm
But-
not Coelho. No disrespect to them.
But you earned the right to wear it, is what I'm saying.
But I also earn the right to be myself and be
You
who
do.
I am as an individual. I don't want to be
I'm
somebody
giving
else.
you a compliment.
I know,
just
I
to-
appreciate it, but I'm just saying, I always want to. I mean, that's the one thing. Whenever I teach young kids, trying to bring them up, it's like, yes, you have this great mentor to look at, but be
Yeah.
yourself. Be your own individual. I can teach you along the way how
Well,
to.
you
be
think
that
about it. How many
individual,
people wore 36 at Syracuse besides you that people remember? I don't remember anybody that wore
but
36.
no
Do you?
idea.
One, I forgot his name. I'm trying to. He's a defensive back. I'm trying to remember.
I don't.
And Conley, did you have?
Pacucci? He wore 36.
Was it 36?
Yeah.
Did you have now, Conley? When you wore yours, right? So we got a little picture of this.
49.
Right.
When you wore 49,
Did it come that way, or did I use a pair of scissors and cut it short?
I was gonna say, you did crop tops
Scissors and
before they
cutting.
were in.
Oh yeah.
I like that. You kind of look like Moose Johnston though when you had it like that. Remember?
big
You
neck
remember
roll.
Moose and Mike Allstott
Yeah.
for Tampa? He used to wear the linebacker pads as a
49ers.
fullback.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
yeah. So come
I
to
loved
find
Mike
out-
Allstott.
Come to find out, taking on people with your face mask only hurts your neck.
Yeah,
later
a
in life.
little bit.
Yeah.
So that big old neck roll you were talking about, I don't know if it was it Dungy you were talking about? Somebody laid out. I ended up hitting the quarterback Ryan Clements from Miami, not intentionally trying to spear him, but when I dove, he cut back into me, and I hit his flak jacket. They used to have those Donzi flak jackets. I thought it broke my neck. I got up and I went back down again, and I was just holding my neck. And they x-rayed me at the Carrier Dome, and then they just put another neck roll on top of the neck roll I used to have. So
Well, yeah, because back in the day, like he said that they would concussion protocol. They'd ask him questions. What day is it? Obviously, it's Saturday. We're playing.
How many fingers I got up? 2. Now give me my helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said that when he would get a concussion to him on the side of the field, that if nobody was looking, he would take a helmet and go out. And if they took his helmet, he would take somebody else's helmet.
my worst concussion was against Penn State. And as a matter of fact, a good friend of mine, Marty Coyne, probably gave me a very similar one too. Yeah, he was. He's a
He was tough.
big legs. But I hit Sam Gash at Penn State, and right on the goal line. I turned my helmet. I was a freshman, and he was just massive. Turned my helmet, he caught me right in the temple, and I got up, and as soon as it happened, I chemically changed inside. I was like, it was almost like I got hit by a car. And I got up and I was like in a daze. And Timmy, the Sandman, Sandquist, had dislocated his finger on the play. And so I'm like I'm like over top of him, staring at him. And Don Lowe comes down. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "What do you mean you don't know?" I go, "I don't know." And he's like, "Come with me." So it's like a minute left and a half. So I sit down on the bench and I'm just starting to get fuzzy, confusing. And, we are Penn State. Where are we? Penn State. And what's today? I go, October 17th. He's like, "Oh, he's good to go back in the game." And then I asked Joe Wood, and I knew it was October 17th because it just happened to be my birthday that day. This is in 1990. I still have the videotape. So John Doherty from CBS is behind me, basically saying Dan Conley doesn't know what planet he's on. So I'm looking at Joe Wood, and I'm going, "Coach P keeps talking about Eagle defense, Joe." And I just kept thinking about birds. And that's where the confusion comes in.
Yeah.
So we start walking into remember how crappy the locker room was at Penn State for the visitors? So you walk through this roped off tunnel, and then you get into the locker room, and I just remember fading to black. And then 3 days later, I think I woke up, but I ended up playing the whole second half, showering, flying home, driving home, and it was like, does he play the next day? Does he practice? And that's how it was back in the day with concussions.
That's how it was.
Well, that was like Colt McCoy that was sitting on the field for the Browns, just looking down, and they let him play the whole. He said he does not remember like the entire fourth quarter of that game. It was like 14 minutes.
Again,
and they started to change protocol
when I asked
after
you guys,
that.
how many ADs or how many vice presidents or presidents from universities or even in the NFL, how many owners, CEOs, how many of them are dying from these concussions that us players have taken?
Nobody.
None.
Yeah.
It's all the players.
Nobody. But they don't want to give you
Do
the money to go get it checked out.
And they know how bad it is. Have you seen the movie Concussion with Will Smith in it?
Yeah, and that's only like a
it's
portion
an old movie,
of
but
it.
it's absolutely amazing. Like I said, the West Virginia games. We sit here, we watch Michael Owens score the 2-point conversion on that all the time, which I cheer. I was about winning.
Yeah.
But do you know why Michael Owens was in that play and I wasn't?
You got a concussion.
My second concussion. Do you know my second
He got
concussion?
two
for
in
that
the
game?
same game.
What
is it like?
Second. It's called second impact. Second.
But a lot of people die. You can die from getting
It should have
two.
killed me. Yep.
Yeah.
Very, very lucky.
I remember you telling me, I said, how many concussions you had? You said 9 that I can remember. I had 2 in one game.
Yeah. Oh, I've had 13 where I had to be carried off the field. A lot.
Do you know how many
it's a
you've
lot.
had?
More than
none. I told.
I remember with Dungy. Dungy's the only person they would do this with at
I'm a
Syracuse.
businessman here in town.
Dungy had at least 5. Remember we counted them? And every year they wrote down 1. I remember one year Dungy was like,
Oh, he was.
and then like literally in 2 minutes he popped up like a ghost. And he just like shot up on the field.
I remember
and
that.
I remember they said that he had an upper body injury, and I said a concussion. They're like, "Well, Dan, we don't know." I go, "Did you see the spirit come out of his body when he was on the side of the field?"
I know what your player talking about. He was face down. He was out, and then all of a sudden he just popped right
He
up.
just
I
popped
remember
up
that,
out of
yeah.
nowhere. He was literally just like this, and then he got up in like one, and he didn't even bend. He got up in like one motion, like a vampire.
That's just reaction. He was.
I
out.
had 6 at the NFL Combine, but it was probably more like 60.
Yeah. The way they diagnose
if you
him now.
take a kid to the hospital today, I took my son years ago when he was snowboarding and he got a concussion. You take a kid to the hospital today for a concussion, headache, sensitivity, light, or nausea.
Oh,
Any of those three
they ruled
is
concussion.
equals a concussion.
Yep.
I go, that was most of every practice.
So does that mean that most
that
of
was
my
every single practice?
Yeah.
A
does that
stinger?
mean most of my ex-girlfriends have given me a concussion?
No, you've given me
Headache,
concussion.
nausea, visibility.
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, bro.
We could touch it. Rob's met some of them. He knows none of them are good.
Don't
Rob. I don't
don't
tell.
include me in this.
Listen. I don't tell. Like when I dated girls of the past, I didn't tell Rob about them
Rob
until
don't
the
know
end
nothing.
because I would tell Rob something and he would go like this. He goes, "What do you think you should do?" That's all he would say to me. He goes, "Dan, she's done. She's done."
I know my battles I can possibly win, and I know my battles to leave alone. When it comes to women, I leave it alone.
I know
I
you do.
leave it alone. Like, yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. You know,
I know you
okay,
do.
okay, dear. No,
I know you do. Yeah. Out of all the linemen, all the linebackers, like out of everybody all the power backs, everybody that you could have ever faced, when it comes to, like you said, with a woman, you leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Yeah. It's the scariest player you'll ever not see on the field.
Bro, it makes. I'd rather see Danny, coming down, with. and Glenn Young back there coming downhill just trying to get a first down to deal with an upset woman. You remember Glenn Young?
I remember.
I know you do.
Wait, who did he play for?
Syracuse. It was him and Danny.
No, but I'm trying to think of what year did he play.
It was
He played in the NFL, though, right?
Yeah, 5 years with the Raiders.
With the Raiders, okay.
These
My head
two
was saying Niners.
gigantic
that's wrong.
linebackers sitting back there, but like these two are trying to take your head out. Bro. What do you do with these guys? I mean, they're just enormous. The linebackers.
See, but the thing is, you guys say this now, like we said before we went on the air, you're like, oh, I'm at that age where I have aches and pains. I'm sitting next to you both, and you're both in good shape, and I still don't think somebody would want to get hit by you in a bar.
Smoke and mirrors.
No, but for real, though, Floyd Little, bless his heart in heaven,
Yeah.
at 80
great,
years,
man.
like at
He looked
71 years old,
He looked
I would
great.
look at him and I'm like,
looked
God,
great.
you can play now.
Yeah, he was great.
Like
Great
he
man.
would, you
what a
just
great
look
guy.
at him and we did a thing and he put on his Hall of Fame jacket.
Yeah.
Like, what did you retire yesterday? Like 71, and he could still rock anything. Scary.
What a great ambassador for Syracuse football. What a loss for us.
And you know what he said? He would have talked to.
What a
He
loss
didn't just
for
talk
us.
to the football team. He was a special assistant to the AD for Daryl Gross. He talked to everybody: women's basketball,
Right.
soccer, volleyball. It didn't matter. You came into his office, and I remember that man was so busy. Yet every time I talked to him for 2 hours, an hour. First time I did an interview in his office, 45 minutes on camera, hour and 15 off camera. That hour and 15 conversation, one of the best conversations of my life that only him and I saw.
Great guy.
He changed my life. He's the reason why. He's one of the reasons. He's one of the people in my very tiny circle that was a part of me starting my business 9.5 years ago, and he didn't even know it. When I came to him and I said, I'm at this radio station, they don't respect me, I don't like being here, I'm making nothing, I want to evolve, I know what I can do. I was at a fork in the road, and he looked at me, and he was on the phone, and I don't even know who he was on the phone with. He put the phone down, and he goes, and you know how he would like get loud and then whisper? And he looked at me, and he goes, Dan, he goes, when you walked in the room, he said, you know how some people got an aura? He's like, not everybody has an aura. He's like, I saw some around you. He goes, you just know when you're in the presence of somebody that's going to be successful. He goes, and you got that. He said, you're going to be successful. And I started my business within a couple months of it.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at the fact that when you said aura, I'm thinking, like, and I know one of your favorite artists, when Dave Chappelle was playing Prince, and Charlie Murphy said his aura was around when he came.
Yeah, the Prince would walk out. Give it to me back. Yeah. Oh, that was Rick James. But no, like the Prince would come out, and then he literally said that when he beat him in basketball, he served them pancakes in his house. I want to go to a Prince party because that's the only place that I know that you would see a real life unicorn. Like if you went to Prince's house, like has he told you about the parties he's had? He had Wesley Snipes, Will Smith, Boys to Men.
Bro. Why you
You.
Why you out here dry snitching?
You know Wesley Snipes? Like, you know what Charlie Murphy said that he knew Wesley Snipes was some kind of dude when Wesley Snipes was in jail. And Charlie Murphy comes home to his mansion, and Wesley Snipes is sitting on his couch, and he goes, aren't you supposed to be in jail? And Wesley was like, yeah. I mean, that's Blade, though. That's Blade. But he came home to his house one time, his apartment in Philly.
Yeah.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Wesley Snipes were on his couch.
Well, rookies had to do what the veterans say, and like we were at a club that night, and
Oh, poor you! You had to have Wesley Snipes in your house.
and the
I
veterans
feel
told
so
me
bad for
we're
you.
having a party at your house, and I'm like, okay, as a rookie, you can't, you got to do what they say. So I walked in my own house, and I'm seeing people I don't know, but I see all my players and teammates and everything. I told you, I walked downstairs in my house, and I'm like, Wesley Snipes and Will Smith. I'm like, wow, okay. That's when I realized the NFL is a little different.
He told me we've been friends for almost 10 years.
Out of a shoe, somebody else's shoe.
You got to drink beer out of somebody else's.
Oh, but wasn't that in Bugsy's though?
No, in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It was gross.
See, but what he says to me, now we've been friends for, I came back here in like 2011, 2012, so we've been friends for just about 10 years. My favorite group, favorite anything of all time in music, Boys to Men. Right? Love Boys to Men. You know what he tells me about 6 years into knowing each other? You know what he says to me? He's like, oh, I know Boys to Men. My cousin knows him. I was like, bro, what are you doing? And still to this day, have you called anybody on my behalf? No. Why?
Yeah, Boys to Men.
Why?
Dan want to sing a song with y'all. You want to set that up?
Why don't you call somebody? Put it on here. That's fine. I got to the closest I got to them. They came to my restaurant in Disney. They came to the restaurant I was working at, and Wanye was there with Nathan, but Sean Stockman wasn't there, and Michael S. McCrary wasn't there because he had left the band at the time.
He's got.
But that's the first time that I got to see them.
Health
But he
issues.
knows Boyz II Men. He's never called them for me. Some friend, huh? I would take a bullet for this guy.
I asked Rob Moore. I said,
Call Boyz II Men.
Right on that.
that was really his name that
that's Rob,
they
yes,
said.
sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
apparently he was.
Oh, Rob Moore?
Yeah, I won't tell his secrets, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was his name in that
Yeah,
song.
that was his name.
Rob Moore, you're dead.
Yeah. Tell him, bring it on. We was ready for him.
They said, wait, hold on. What song
The
was
song
that?
Poison.
Rob Moore, you're dead. They said that in Belle Biv DeVoe said that?
Yeah. It says it in the song.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, but that was him?
Yes.
For real?
Yeah.
So Belle Biv DeVoe hates Rob Moore?
Bro, I'm not gonna like Danny
Back in
said.
the
I'm not gonna
day,
put it. I'm not gonna put the business of what that situation.
But they
came
said a
about.
lot in that song. How do you know me and the crew used to? I mean, come on now.
Bro,
They said Rob Moore, you did. So wow, really? That was him?
Holy
I sing that all the time. I didn't know that was Rob. I like Rob Moore.
That's Rob spreading gossip.
that's not me. I didn't say anything. I just said that they say it in the song. They do.
Wow. And Boyz II Men found. Oh no, they found Boyz II Men. The New Edition found Boyz II Men.
Yes.
When they had 5 guys.
Yes.
Yeah, and I still don't know who that 5th guy was supposed to be.
All right, I got to go back to work.
Well, you've done the entire show.
Awesome.
So that coming from Dan Conley, Rob Drummond, Syracuse Football Then and Now, and a million other things in between. Myself, Dan Tortora. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. PB&J's Lunchbox. Come see them. 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Open throughout the week, Monday through Saturday. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And now proudly serving Cafe Kubal coffee. And, of course, you have Cafe Kubal locations all throughout central and upstate New York. Real quick note before I let these gentlemen go, you can watch and listen to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Facebook, and on MixLR/Wake Up Call DT for each. You can search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, TuneIn, and more. And I'd like to thank all of our partners here, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Progressive Dental, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Millhouse Market, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, the Lemoyne Dolphins, PB&J's Lunchbox, Honda City of Liverpool, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and Mother's Cupboard. And, of course, Wake Up Call is the proud multimedia marketing partner of Lemoyne College and Marywood University. Rob, thank you. Dan, thank you.
You're welcome.
And to Pat, Sue, and the entire team of PB&J's Lunchbox, shout out to you.